Hello, I'm Laura Lundy with the Lakes Foundation of Albert Lea. So as we look around us, we've got all kinds of lakes and streams in our community and around our community. And what's happened to our water is the clarity and the quality of the water has been impaired from years and years of normal use really, but maybe just a little bit of neglect for the waterways and what's all infiltrating the waterways. So when we think about the areas that surround our watershed, there's a lot of farming, agriculture, residents who are living in the community. There's a lot of streets and roadways and sidewalks and things that need to be maintained in the winter so we can use our cars. And what's happening is all of the things that are being used to maintain this land that surrounds our watershed are actually winding up flowing downstream and into the waterways. And we don't have the depth of some of the lakes that they have in northern Minnesota. So our shallow lakes aren't able to filter and clean out all of the sediment and things that are actually washing into the lakes. And what this has done is affected our water clarity and the ability of fish and wildlife to maintain a viable habitat in these waters.
TMDL stands for Total Maximum Daily Load, and basically what it was is a decision by the National Pollution Control Agency, or EPA, to look at water quality issues throughout the different states. So all 50 states had to put a plan together on how they're going to deal with the total maximum daily loads. States look at all the watersheds, such as the Shell Rock River, Cedar River, Turtle Creek River watershed districts, and worked with them to put together a TMDL. And basically what the TMDL does is it looks at all your impaired waters, which for the Shell Rock River watershed district we have Fountain Lake, Albert Lea Lake, Whites Lake, and Pickerel Lake, along with the Shell Rock River. And so then what we do is we focus in on what those impairments are. So for all of our lakes, of course, it's water clarity and phosphorus. And with that, we go on and then try to identify sources of that phosphorus that is coming into those bodies of water. Now, with like Fountain Lake and Albert Lea Lake, you know, a lot of it is the internal phosphorus. Phosphorus is a natural thing found in the soils that we plant our crops in. What it does is it basically feeds the algal growth that turns our lakes green, and then prohibits sunlight from getting down to the bottom and producing the good vegetation that we need to help stabilize our lakes. So with the TMDL implementation plan, then it helps the board identify where these projects are, what the bang for the buck is, and again, it helps them prioritize those issues. And so, for instance, that's why to us dredging on Fountain Lake is a huge deal, because dependent on the year and weather patterns, 65 to 80% of the phosphorus in Fountain Lake is actually internal phosphorus, or coming from the bottom sediments of the lake.
To see all the wildlife, to see the beauty that we have here in Albert Lea and southern Minnesota. The Shell Rock River has helped with that because of all their efforts from the streams coming into the lake with the barriers and all their efforts, and to help the surrounding shorelines. That's what I see with the Shell Rock River, what they're doing for our community, not just Albert Lea, but southern Minnesota, and then as a whole Minnesota.
It's really interesting how much brain power is going into this and how much science is going into this, and how far they've come. What have you seen with the waters from where they were to where they are today?
I can tell you, I live on Fountain Lake, and I can tell you from the waters in the past, Albert Lea Lake, I see 35, I vision 35, how people, 30,000 cars per day, and to drive over the bridge on 35W and you see Albert Lea Lake, and people, we are only 8 miles from the border of Iowa. What a beauty we have here, and a gem. This is a destination. What my vision is, a destination spot in Albert Lea where people come from regionally from all over America because they maybe don't want in funding and the efforts of all the organizations in Albert Lea supporting the watershed and for the quality of life in Albert Lea. And if we continue to have such a great watershed, we will have this quality of life and beautiful lakes, and to be able to draw more people from the area to southern Minnesota, not just to Albert Lea, but I think of my regional friends. That's the only really negative that I've ever heard is, why aren't we dredging? And when the watershed, more importantly, bought that dredge, it's showing the community we're going to be dredging, and that's supporting what the residents of this community want, is to see clean.
Waterfowl stuff coming. I mean, this year would be the first year I've never seen so many canvasbacks on this lake. I mean, you're seeing swans coming in here on the migrations on the spring and the fall. I saw lots of bluebills this spring. So it's cleaning itself up. I mean, and it's all because of what the watershed has been doing, what they've been doing in their practices. I'd like to see, to keep going. We need to keep going and build on what we're doing. I think when you look at the lakes up here, you're looking at the headwaters of the Shell Rock River and the Shell Rock River watershed. And I think we need to keep working on it, because as we clean up our end, it makes water quality and makes, the environment better all the way down to where it runs into the Cedar and then into Mississippi. Look at the vegetation. Listen to the birds. I mean, do we have all these birds around 20 years, 25 years ago? I mean, the environment it's a lot better, and it has a lot to do with the water quality on the lake and what they're doing. We're riffraff stuff on like some of the creeks up there that drain in, and the next step is to clean up Fountain Lake, and then you come down to Albert Lea Lake. Fountain Lake, if you go up on 13, and where you turn off there, kind of by I think it's 101. You'll see where the creek comes in there. You'll see a point coming out. That wasn't there 25 years ago. I used to go fishing right off the end of that. And it's just what has, over the years, until you start getting the filter strips in, it's soil that has eroded down through the creeks and pretty much stayed right in that area and built that little point coming out of there.
So it's something that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise it's kind of all for naught.
Oh yeah, I mean, you need to work from the top and work your way on down, and then when you get done, when you dredge out Fountain Lake, then you come down to Albert Lea. I mean, it just cleared that lake right up, and you got the vegetation there. Even with Albert Lea Lake, when you had it froze, I think it froze out in 2004. You seen the water cloud just boom, went totally clear, and you got the vegetation and stuff. But now as the carp have come up, as the carp have come back, it's starting to kind of get a little bit more dirtier.
So they're a big problem, aren't they?
Oh, carp are a big problem. You need to do what you can to get rid of as many as possible, if not eradicate them. I think putting in the fish barrier on the Shell Rock River when they replace the dam is going to be a big part of helping control that, like they have with the fish barriers up on Mud Lake and
other communities, and friends of mine live in Owatonna Faribault come to Albert Lea to go fishing rather than to go north because they'll catch fish. And I really think it's all in how you approach that whole body of water in the ecosystem and how you catch and release and go on from there. And it's the way you treat it and take care of it for the future. Specific ideas that need to be addressed by this watershed is finding out a way that the city runoff in the storm drains, and even when they have infiltration from heavy storm loads, so it puts more water in the waste treatment plant. If we can find out a way to help filter a lot more of that water and catch the filter boxes for the trees downtown so that the water is filtered prior to going into the stormwater system. Yeah, so it furnishes water for the trees first, and then the excess.
Deep, yes, it's native. Here it's not. This is a prairie. We should have native grasses restoring that shoreline and maintaining the ecosystem because it cleans and filters the water.
There's a variety in here. I like that. There's northern bass, walleye, panfish. I fish for panfish some too. I never used to, but I do now.
Do you hit that fish that we don't like every now and then?
Which one's that?
The carp?
Oh yeah, snag them every once in a while. I don't think.
How about that watershed? It's been going for about 10 years now. Do you think it's doing
a fabulous job? Love it. I've got a decent immediacy with the people who work there, and they're doing a great job. They're growing. They're doing as much for our little area as they can, and I think they're going to literally put us kind of back on the map. I think the key to our growth is the success that we're going to see from the water district, or the Shell Rock River Water District. I think getting people to come and visit our lakes and enjoy them with us, they'll see it, in stage by stage by stage. So come visit it now. Come visit it while it's being dredged, come visit it after it's being dredged. But I think another thing that we need to do is promote our lakes, our watershed, all of them. So no, you'll maybe ask the question quite a few times and always be answered the dredge, but I think the promotion of our watershed district is going to be real important also.
You're more of a professional and entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see potentially happening as offshoots of having clean water?
We've got a large downtown right next to a gorgeous lake, so the impetus to this whole growth of our downtown may have stemmed from wanting to clean up the lake as well. Why not have both bookends, something to celebrate? Not just a nice downtown, not just a nice lake, but no, with the Shell Rock Watershed District cleaning up the lakes, and Albert Lea taking care of the Broadway Ridge renewal and cleaning up downtown. Wow, what an opportunity.
Anything?
See down in the water deeper than we used to be able to do.
What do you think's happened to have that happen?
Declared war on the carp. I don't know if it's made visible a difference, but all the money and effort that went into cleaning up the old landfill, that's kind of a sign of an investment that we've decided we care about this lake. And we talk about runoff. Often green lawns make green lakes. If somebody makes a comment about farmers using too many chemicals, I interject that city landowners like me, we're often guilty of putting way more chemicals on a yard per acre than a farmer ever would.
How do your students view the Shell Rock River and the lakes in and around Albert Lea?
Well, I've taught for 22 years, and I think kids are fishing here more than they used to. I had a kid come back all excited right after fishing opener this year and showed me pictures of some of the northerns they had caught on Albert Lea Lake, and I've never had luck on Albert Lea Lake.
And a lot of Edgewater Park that you see not here but over in that area toward the old country club, that whole low area was a swamp, and they probably took a great deal of the fill from this sediment, from this body that we're in here. Very concerned about water quality, and as such I think they have gone back into the various areas that drain into our watershed and worked with farmers and other interested parties to control the amount of effluent that's coming from, let's say, dairy farms and that, or from farms where they fertilize, as many farmers are required to do. And by putting grass strips, as I understand it, and riprapping, they've been able to really control the erosion and the flow of a lot of that unwanted material into the lake. My thought is that they've created a rather positive image. It's really anxious to see water quality improved, fishing improved, things such as you were talking about, which would be swimming. Our grandchildren come over here and we want them to be able to use the dock and to swim off of there and feel comfortable that the water is clean and usable in that in that way.
Currently, when they swim, do you make them shower when they come in?
Their mother does.
It's like
yes,
an idiot.
Really.
And then they take the shower and then they jump right back in?
Well, often that is the case. And sometimes the water here in the heat of July can be rather unpleasant, or
I think the lakes are important to the city of Alberta. I think they're a great asset. I think they're important to the quality of life, and I also think they're really important to the economic development of this community, because once you have an asset like that, like the lakes you have, and they're able to be used, you can then market them toward the city's benefit to get people from out of town to come in and use them. And then once people are in using the lakes, obviously the next step is they're going to be buying stuff at our stores, grocery stores, fast foods, restaurants and stuff like that. So, I think it's a great benefit. And not only that.
And now from our deck, which is up above the lake in the mornings, I can often look down and see the various species of fish swimming along the shore.
Isn't that great?
Which is really great.
Yeah, we're becoming a go-to place now for fishing, which kind
right.
of unheard of.
And if we could get the depth of this lake improved and made even more interesting, such that it would hold fish, more structure that'll hold fish, that allow you to sort of build a, what do I want to say, a thought about how you might go out there and catch your limit of whatever species it happens to be. And we've all... It holds promise? Yeah, it holds promise. We've all learned that. Every fisherman hopes, that tomorrow will be another day, the best day of his fishing life. So, and one thing I have noticed in this lake, and I'm not sure if the improvement in pickerel may have fostered it as well, but the bass, the number of bass that are being caught now in this lake, it really amazes me. And the number of tournaments that we've been able to attract. And I have to believe that every one of those tournaments results in money being spent in the community, and in return for that, the sales tax that is collected with those purchases and whatever.
Or if you do.
We live on Alberta Lake, and there is a tremendous amount of muck under there, and it doesn't take much effort for a boat or the fish to stir it up, and a lot of that just use it on the others and take the knowledge they've acquired and help with anything they need to be learned and done.
Okay, you get to schedule Dan DeBoer's efforts for the next 10 years. What would you have him do? What needs to be done?
I think basically what they're doing is making the efforts. One of the things would be is the dam, and I think they've got some funding for that approved. So get the dam and the
behind it.
Yeah, you see the two culverts behind me. They have electrodes in them, and we're running a pulsed current through those electrodes, and it just repels fish. Fish react really strongly to electricity in the water. Just kind of repels them, turns them around, doesn't kill them, just stuns them, and the current takes them back downstream.
So this is part of the reason why Pickerel Lake has turned around? Is this one of the...
Yes, this is the whole reason why Pickerel Lake has turned around. It's keeping the carp back from going back into Pickerel Lake, and you know, getting in there and rooting around in the bottom and doing their carp thing.
Rough fish actually do quite extensive damage to the lake bottom. They really stir up a lot of the sediment that already exists. And then not only that, but they're taking in all these nutrients and nourishment throughout the day, and it comes out and of course adds to the problem. So not only do they stir it up, but they also create a large amount of their own waste that's going right back into the lake. And that really equates to that large amount of slimy mud that's on the bottom. And it doesn't allow for vegetation to grow. The vegetation in lakes actually is a sign that it's a healthy lake. It's a sign that the water is clear enough for sunlight to penetrate down to the bottom and actually allow those seeds to germinate and make vegetation. So the fact that we don't have any vegetation in some of our lakes is not a sign of a healthy lake.
Very good. I love that. That was good, except for that darn car, but that's all right.
Okay, can we cut that out?
Sound better. It'll sound better. Or you can just retake it again.
Okay.
Rough fish. Rough fish.
It was so good the first time. Okay. So when we look at rough fish in our lakes, rough fish actually stir up the bottom sediment and make a real mess out of the water. So when we look at poor water clarity, rough fish contribute to that at an extensive rate. They also take in a lot of nourishment from the lake, and then all of that nourishment goes right back down into the muck and the mud on the bottom of the lake. So when we think about a rough fish kill and what that's done for our waterways, when you get rid of these rough fish, you're actually allowing that water to start to clear itself up. As soon as it starts to do that, the sunlight actually is able to infiltrate down into the bottom of the lake.
Radically increase the cleanliness. I don't even know what they call them, the setbacks from the agricultural fields and for the drainage. We're noticing a lot less runoff into the lake. It's just, all in all, it's cleaner water.
Okay, I'm going to bounce around. Dredging. Is it necessary?
Absolutely, it's necessary. There's so much sediment in there. We end up in a situation where we can have a severe winter kill just because there's not enough depth. And then along the cleanliness and the green, you've got to have a plan in place beforehand. That's a slow process, getting a plan that's going to be right for the lake, right for the watershed, right for the fishery. And it takes a lot of agencies. The DNR's highly involved. Nothing happens in the water without the DNR being involved, and unfortunately they don't always. My favorite new phrase is they shuffle their feet when it's time to dance. And
so you'd like to see them be more proactive?
You bet. I would like to see this thing go on a fast track. It's not like we've only been talking about it for the last job at it. I was happy to see that other watershed organizations, in the area or close by, are looking to them for advice and assistance and whatnot. I think that's great. I would like to see that happen from further out, and they've got a lot of experience and a lot of success to back to prove their experience.
They got to take the density of the bottom of the lake, and you can't go through where it gets into the hard pan, because if you go through that, it'll probably start draining the lake. So you just got to go to that hard spot, and if it varies, they can go deeper. But otherwise, I think, if I recall right, it was like 7-8 feet or something like that, most of it, that they could go down. Well, it's getting more. It's an issue, that long travel and that. Jumping pick up your car. 10 minutes later, you're out by the lake and you're fishing, and you can still catch some nice walleyes. You got to hunt for them and work for it, but that's a big plus.
Yep. And you're home by 8.
You want to put him back?
You
want to say bye-bye? Bye-bye to fishy? Bye, fishy.
Of the carp, less of the dirty fish, but on the other hand, they do stock it with the walleye, and that helps a lot. Northern to get them stocked that way, to make it appear as though the lake is maybe healthier or better active. They do treat the lake every once in a while with the copper sulfate. I'm not sure if I like that. It seems like a Band-Aid, and what we really need to figure out what we need to do to change the runoff system and what we're putting into that lake. I know in the past Albert Lea and
what we call an implementation plan. And what that implementation plan does is goes through all of our sub-watersheds and identifies through the monitoring that we've done potential sources of phosphorus coming in to the system. So then what the implementation plan does is it develops this wide range of goals that the district has and projects this district can do then to reduce the phosphorus coming into our systems. So what this also does is help the board then prioritize projects and gives us money spent on the project and pounds of removal per day.
Old cars, that's a big deal now. And you go find yourself an old car, and you're not going to be able to turn around and make it new again or restore it without any, effort and money and passion. And that's what it takes. For me to sit here to say that they could do that lake without money, it's silly. It doesn't add up. But by the same token, if you didn't have the passion that you have in the people that are trying to get the lakes around here cleaned up, they probably wouldn't get done either. So I think it's a combination of stuff that it takes in order to get any project done.
Mm-hmm. It's really important that we come together as a community in this effort. Everything we do on land affects what's happening in these waters. So if you want to look at it this way, you actually have a stake in these waters. You're part owner. You're responsible for seeing to it that these waters are there for generations to come. So as far as a community effort, things don't get done without community involvement. We need the help and support of everybody in the community. Whether you're able to volunteer time or resources or make a donation or even say something to somebody who may have left litter behind them by the lake. It's just really a simple effort of however you can get involved.
Water is really important and that we need to take care of our lakes and let's make sure that they're doing okay.
Very good. Thank you.